Greetings, mortals, and welcome to this video about lies and deception.
So, in this video, I want to talk about basically fixing the Republican Party. One of the fundamental issues that the Republican Party has right now, I've talked about how it's broken in previous videos and how it's completely fractured. But one of the issues that the party has right now is that it's actively working against the interests of its own people. The people who vote for Republicans are living in poor states, and those poor states are the ones that benefit from Democratic policies that the Republicans are trying to get rid of. So that's a problem. So one of the problems that comes from being poor is that you become more selfish. Okay, people who are poor are more self-interested than people who are wealthy. We have this idea of the angelic beggar, and that's just not a fucking thing. People who are poor are more self-interested because they have to be in order to survive, and that's just it's a natural, like, clamp down mechanism. If you've ever been stressed in your life, you know, like, you become more self-interested. You snap at people. You become less interested in what other people have to say about their problems because you have your own shit to deal with, right? And the same holds true for short-term and long-term stressors. So people that are poor are thinking fundamentally about their own best interests. And that's what the Republican Party appeals to. The problem is that the Republican Party is not actually working in the best interest of its people, because the Republican Party is pissing on their leg and telling them that it's raining. So one of the example of sort of like the narratives that the Republican Party will tell, and this is the thing about this, is that the Democratic Party does not fight this narrative. Okay, nobody in the media and nobody in politics really fights against this narrative. Everyone pretends that this is how it is because the liberals want it to be this way or something. I don't even know why they don't fight against it. But there's this idea that the way that the Democratic policies work is that you take money from white people in Mississippi and you give it to some black guy in Harlem. Okay, that's the narrative that the Republican Party gives about this income redistribution that is happening. And that's just not what's going on at all. That's not what's going on with Democratic policies. Democratic policies take money from wealthy areas and give them to poor areas. Now, that's a big thing. That's a difference that's very significant on a federal level. It's a significant difference on a state level as well. But on a federal level, we're talking about a completely different thing. The federal government disproportionately benefits poor states. Imagine for a moment that the 50 states just split off and started doing their own thing. The state that would do the best out of all the states is California, because California is a fully functioning country unto itself. It has everything that it needs, and it's extremely wealthy. It would be one of the largest, most powerful countries in the world on its own. Okay? When it pays money into the federal government, it doesn't get shit back. The amount of money that California pays is dramatically higher than the amount of money that it receives. Okay? So California is not benefiting from the federal government. The people that are benefiting from the federal government are the poor states, right? It's not poor people, it's poor states. So regardless of your income level, if you live in a state like Alabama or Mississippi or Louisiana, you live in these old Confederate states that have agrarian economies that don't really function very well, and the entire state is very poor. And these are numbers that you can easily look up, right? This is just facts, right? If you live in those places, the money is being taken from places like California and New York and given to you. Because those places are not getting their money back. But you are getting more money than you pay in. Right? Your community is getting more money back than they're paying in. And you might think, oh, well, I earned the money that I have, and some of it's being taken, and then it's being used in ways that I don't necessarily want it to be used. You didn't earn that money on your own. Let's say that you run a grocery store in a place that's got a bunch of farmers. Every time a farmer comes in and pays you money, that's money that came from the federal government. Because farming has a bunch of like tax credits and subsidies that are being done to lift that part of the economy and pretend that it's viable, okay, as a means of making money. So guess what? All of the money that you're getting, a decent portion of it is coming from the federal government, right? Anytime a soldier comes in, right? How many military bases do you think there are in New York City? I don't think there are any. That's federal funds that's being spent that's then boosting your local economy. And people even talk about it in that context, right? The federal government is giving tons of money to states like Mississippi, and it's taking that money away from cities like Los Angeles and New York. That's where it's coming from. So this narrative has been given to Republicans that their money is being taken from them and giving to some poor person, when what's actually happening is, regardless of your income level, it doesn't matter whether you're poor or rich personally, if you live in a state that's poor, your money is disproportionately being bumped up by the federal government. So that's an important thing to understand, is that the more the federal government takes money from poor states and takes money from the rich states and gives it to the poor states, the better off you are. Let's say that you're a wealthy person in Mississippi and Obamacare gets passed, and all of a sudden there's a bunch of people who are healthier because guess what? They're now insured. They're not just healthier, they also have more money to spend. All of that money that they're spending is going into the local economy. All of that local economy money is propping up your business. You are better off if the people in your community have more money. It's just that simple. It doesn't matter who they are in your community. Anyone in your community who has extra money gives that money to you at some point, because that's how economies work, right? So when money is being taken from the rich states and given to the poor states, that's beneficial for everyone. Now, I say it's beneficial for everyone. The rich states, if they wanted to be selfish, could say, well, fuck those people, I don't want to give them money. But that's very short-sighted. The Republicans, in terms of the actual people who are Republicans, should not necessarily be voting for Democrats because they don't believe in a lot of the Democratic ideals. But what they should be doing is voting for people who are actively yelling at their, Congress people and the people on the federal level and forcing them to look out for your best interests. To say yes to big government, yes to big federal government, because big federal spending is going to come to you. It's going to come to you, it's going to come to your community, and it's great for you. So say yes to that stuff, okay? And tell your representatives to say yes. Now, Democrats in the audience, this might start sounding like those Republicans are taking all your money, and that maybe you should reconsider whether you want to give all this money to Mississippi because you don't want to give a bunch of money to Republicans. Well, fuck you. You should. You should want to give all this money to Republicans. Even no matter what you think about Republicans, if you think they're a bunch of racist hicks or whatever, I don't care what you think. You should want this because, as I said earlier, people become more selfish and more insular when they are poorer. The fact that you have more problems of racism and more problems of sexism and more problems with people just being less liberal generally in Republican states is because they're poor. And that's why their governors and their representatives try to keep them poor. Is because keep you can't keep your agenda of, being super selfish if all of a sudden all of the people that are in your community are doing perfectly fine for themselves and want to help people that aren't just like them. So they have to keep their base poor in order to keep them selfish. If you are helping to make Mississippi a stronger economy, if you're helping to get, funding there that makes these people able to stand on their own 2 feet, helps their economy, it is beneficial for the entire country because it means that it's easier to get more liberal policies passed because people say, hey, you know what? Whoever wants to use the bathroom can use the bathroom. What do I care? Because they're not used to having to deal with, crime and other unpleasantness. Because as their wealth increases, the crime levels will drop. So there's this idea that's been spreading recently, and this is something that Republicans should be paying attention to because it's very dangerous for you. Is that there's been because when I say that people who are less well off and are more stressed are scared people are more selfish and more inclined to say fuck y'all. The Republican Party has made the Democratic voters start to say fuck y'all because voting in Donald Trump was terrifying, and it still continues to be terrifying to this day, the amount of power that's currently held by such crazy people. Okay? And there's a lot of people right now who are basically saying, you know what? If the Republicans want to be poor and miserable, then why are we giving them all this money, and why are we spending all this money on states like Mississippi? Why don't we just let them revoke all this shit, and then Californians won't be hurt because California has its own health thing that they've got going. So why do we care? And the reason you care is because you can and you should. Okay? And it's easy to get scared because you've got really scary people in office, but you have to keep your eye on the prize. If we start improving the economy and bringing up these poor states that have, frankly, they've been completely ignored by the Democrats. Okay, if we bring because they're not Democratic states, so what do the Democrats give a shit? If we start bringing these states up and actually helping their economies, not just like propping up the farming industry, but actually getting programming jobs and other, engineering jobs and things like that, good jobs to all of these states, then it will help to make people nicer and kinder to each other all over the country. Okay? And that is ostensibly what your liberal agenda is. So you want that. And if you're a Republican, you also want that because it means that more money is coming to you. So go for it. And you probably disagree that you're going to become more liberal when you're wealthier, but you will, and that's fine. Right? You won't mind it. It's not a mind control thing. It's the cessation of your sort of animalistic instincts being forced to the forefront by the amount of stress that you have to deal with. So everyone benefits from policies that give money that take money away from the rich states and give them to the poor states. So if you're a Republican, and you're in one of the states that actually like is voting Republican on the federal level, then I don't suggest that you vote for Democrats, because I don't think that you want to vote for Democrats. But if you have to in order to get what you need, then you might have to bite that bullet. But my suggestion is that you talk to your representatives, and people have already started doing this, right? The town hall meetings that these representatives on the federal level are going to are not pleasant places for them right now. And that's because people are starting to really realize just how much their party is fucking them. But don't let them do it. Don't keep voting for these people who are going to fuck you over. Demand better. And you can demand better from your party. You can get Republican people who agree with most of your values, but are okay with bringing money in to help local businesses and to help develop new local businesses and create jobs that wouldn't have existed otherwise. Get the federal funds in to do it, because for now, the people in California and the people in New York are willing to foot the bill. Let them foot that bill for you. Okay? So when you're talking to, again, I just had the video about, ways to effectively communicate with people. When you're talking to your family and friends, when you're talking to, whoever it is that you're talking about, remember to frame your narrative in a way that is reasonable for them, right? You don't want to. A lot of times, Democrats talk to Republicans like the Republicans must have the same, fundamental belief structure that they have, and that's never been the case, and it never will be the case that everyone has the same belief structure. But the fact of the matter is that more liberal policies are fundamentally just better. Like, they're better for the entire economy. And the policies that we have are not always implemented very well, because I think I've talked before about how incompetent our government is. But it's better to have incompetently run good systems than incompetently run stupid systems. Like, the fundamental fact of the matter is that trickle-down economics does not and never has worked, and that economics is extremely complicated, and every time you do something, you're going to do something dumb as a result. There's always going to be some stupid consequence and inefficiency in what you're doing, and that's okay. It's okay for you to have inefficiencies, and it's okay for something to not be optimal, but you want to do something. So anyway, that's it for this video. When talking to people, think about it from their perspective. Think about how it's in their best interest, and try to convince them along those lines. Don't just throw random shit that they don't give a crap about at them, because it's not a convincing argument. So yeah, that's it for today. Thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you again next time.